shrub area 1 is scattered throughout. And we have in the lined pink is shrub area 2. And then there are 3 spots of meadow. And each looks like experimental meadow has 2 of our Earth Day projects, and our most recent one is in meadow area 1. Then you will also see these hot pink lines. That is hopefully one of our future projects. It's pollinator counting. We're working with an entomologist at Salem State who happened to be going through lead mills looking at her love of bugs, and Don Morgan, and they started a conversation and thought it might be a good idea for some data collection. So we are going to be trained and hopefully start that next year. So what do we do? Well, there are 6 of us dedicated individuals who throughout the year, April through November, based on the weather and the temperature, meet at lead mills either Mondays or Wednesdays for 2 hours at a time. We address the most pressing needs of the space at that time. Most of it is weeding. We are competing in very aggressive weeds and invasives. It's a tremendous amount of work. You can't hear me, thank you. And then we do the Chelsea chop, or cutting back tall species. And why do we do that? We do that so that when they do get to their more summer height, they're not falling over and we can see the beauty of their flowers. We do adding plantings, and that's based on our sort of winter planting time. And then we do irrigate during drought. And as most of you know, we have a drought going on right now. So we will hand water some of the well-established plantings. And for our new plots, the Earth Day 2024 in particular was watered daily, because it's really recommended that you really give it the first year a good way to establish the root system. I said there's a tremendous amount of weed pressure there at lead mills. There's a couple, well, there's good 6 of them: mugwort, crown vetch, Queen Anne's lace, yellow foxtail, mugwort. It seems like in the last couple of years we would pay attention to whichever was the most on the acreage. Last year we addressed mugwort and dock. This year we saw a tremendous amount of Queen Anne's lace, probably because it had the space, because we removed the mugwort. And then our current issue is yellow foxtail. It's an annual that self-seeds and a tremendous amount into the soil. So on a weekly basis, we are string trimming it with the help of trail crew, hand trimming it, and luckily it's a fairly easy grass to pull out by yourself. So that's what we were doing this afternoon, pulling up some foxtail. And what we've also learned is once there's a space available, so we can't maybe say 5 feet worth of foxtail I just took out, it now invites something else to grow there. So then the committee thinks about, well, what could we put there that is more native and meadow friendly instead of the invasive weeds? That's something we're going to think about. And then, as we said, the irrigation, we found that was really important to get the first year established. So we, when you'll see the photos of Earth Day 2024, we have 2 irrigation systems going, 2 sprinklers going, and they go for an hour a day. And then we will sprinkler, hand water some of the areas. I know Mary was doing shrub area 2, some that just in need of water. Most of the perennial great. It's more of the shrub or trees that you see that could use some water. We also learned that ground prep is really important. in the beginning of Lead Mills, after it was remediated and people were starting to see what we could do to make it a meadow, there was tilling. And tilling is sort of sequential. Once the seeds drop and let them germinate, then you go ahead and till it again. We didn't wait enough time, so tilling wasn't all that successful for us. We've also used black plastic as a way for weed suppression. You'll see Earth Day 2025's project has started out. When you walk on Lead Mills, you may see a big plot of plastic with sandbags on it. That will be, by the time that we do Earth Day 2025, it will have been on there for 2 years. So all these plots have experimental value for us in terms of how do we plant them, how do we water them, how do we work on weed suppression to really understand what could and will work best in that area. And then, like I had said earlier, because the nutrient value of the soil testing was so low, we started amending with compost these areas that we have planted. We initially thought it was okay, even though it had low organic matter. And they did okay, but we decided to really just help out these plants. This is a picture, one of my favorite pictures. One of my favorite spaces is the berm. It was initially planted in 2016, 2017, and then renovated in the summer of 20 when the decision came that we were going to focus on more native plantings. So we added various plants like goldenrod, mountain mint, snakeroot, sunflowers, Baptista or wild indigo, cutleaf coneflower, and tall white asters, with the understanding of we would have something in bloom from April to September, October for these at-risk pollinators to find food and find homes. This photo is a picture of what their homes would look like in the winter. Many of our pollinators are solo pollinators, so that they use the stalks as homes for overwintering. And one of our fall projects will be to cut back some of these stalks so that they can have a hole to find and create their nest in these in the stalks. And then we, in the spring, will start our spring cleanup, but as a rule, we wait for three consecutive days of 50-degree weather before we start our cleanup. That allows, at least that's what we've been told through many presentations, that is the key for some of these pollinators to wake up, leave their spaces, start looking for food. So we don't want to cut their homes down, and we want them out before we cut their homes down. Here's a recent picture in August, end of August, and you can see some of the beauty. We have, you can see big blue stem grass to the corner on the right. We have sunflowers behind it. Underneath the sign is mountain mint. Behind it is goldenrod, seeing how tall it is. It's just starting to bloom now, which is great because all the rest of the sunflowers were starting peaking and starting to deadhead. And it's great. Okay. In the Meadow 2, which is the top one entering Wyman Woods, in 21, 22, the attempts were to make some swath planting, so a lot of the seed was set. We hadn't really seen it up until this year in such a way that it was successful. You can see the red of the first picture is penstemon or beard's tongue, and it really has grown in nicely in that nice swathing style. And then the lower photo is big blue stem grass, and that also has a nice sweeping up that hill And unfortunately, you can see in front of it is the yellow foxtail. So yellow foxtail is that annual that seeds itself very nicely and is one of our invasives. So as we have this beautiful big blue stem, we will have to work on removing the yellow foxtail. Shrub area 2, another space that's right close to the Wyman Woods entrance. That, I believe, was 2022 planting as well. And when I came along, it had already been there for a year, and we continued to weed, understand irrigation and what was doing well. And this is a picture, again, in July. And what is blooming there on the top in the white is fleabane. And that's a lovely native that grows about 3 to 4 feet tall and attracts the summer pollinators. The pink is swamp milkweed. So we have something for the monarchs to enjoy as well as other butterflies. In front of them are honeysuckle bushes, another place for hosting our pollinators, insects, moths, bees, for their homes. And then behind that is, to the corner, is a flowering raspberry, which I have another picture of as an example, and our sumac grove. Very protective of our sumac grove because one of our wildflower members, it's one of her favorites. So we're very kind to the sumacs. The lower picture is also has some shrubs. There's spirea there. We have a couple of trees. There's the willow trees that are doing well, even with this drought. We just saw them today. We have 2 button bushes that sort of arc, cut leaf coneflower and obedient plant. It's doing really well because we had to spend a lot of time with Earth Day 24 in Meadow 1. We were only able to go get a bird's eye view each time and check it out and see how it was doing. And it's doing pretty well on its own. Plants that is suffering is the Virginia rosebush. Though you can see some of it's being caged, and that is to keep out some critters, also to help us when we do string trim to avoid cutting it. It needs more water than we realize, so it's just one of those things that hasn't met with success. But as you can see, there's that have done really well. Across from shrub area 2, we did this last fall. We did like our own version of a dig and divide. It was really actually quite spontaneous. Shrub area 2 had a tremendous amount of goldenrod. So we were thinning the goldenrod to make room for the snakeroot that was growing there, the rose bushes. And we brought portions of it over to the other side. And we also took tall white aster from the berm, which also was doing very well last year. And so we did a little bit of dig and divide at the berm with the tall white asters and brought them over. What we can see for success there is you can't kill a goldenrod, which is great. And let me tell you how many bees love it. Hopefully you'll, I added one picture today of goldenrod that had, let's see, I counted 9 longhorn beetles, or these locust borers, and 9 types of bees. You had the eastern bumblebee there, you had carpenter bee there, there was 1 possible honeybee, but it was really just really cool to see all these pollinators on a flower of the goldenrod this size. And they all just were coexisting. It was great. The tall white aster, what we learned about, I don't know how many we planted. I'm going to say about 20 we transplanted. There's only about 6 or so there. We learned, and if we do it again, we should have cut them down. The wind from the water really does creep up that hill, and the roots hadn't secured itself yet in the fall, so they kind of tipped over. But some of them did manage to sprout up, and we see about 6 or 8 of them in that row. This was Earth Day 2023 in April 29th. I'm not all that sequential with my photos, but this is how we started October of last year with Jess. Had finished weeding for 2 hours, and I was walking back into the woods because I live up on the hill, and was just a magnificent photo of the yellow being goldenrod, the purple is New England aster, the green is mountain mint, and then of course it's being bordered by the annual foxtail that we're trying to get rid of. But it was just a magnificent photo, and again, the pollinators were just having at it and having a great time. You'll see, I took a picture of it in February, doing what it needs to do, hopefully nesting solo bumblebees and other insects. And then this is a recent one, August of 21. A couple of the things that we noted, we didn't Chelsea chop there. We just kind of let it have a whole year unto itself. It also didn't get any irrigation, except how it rained. And it's doing fairly well. The three main ones that did really well are the goldenrod, the mountain mint, and the asters. They're all starting to bloom now. Mountain mint is more of the midsummer bloom. And then there are small plants called golden Alexander or zizia, and they're a spring flower. So that they did survive and they were doing great, but now they only get about 18 inches high, and then the rest of them are 3 hours. 3 feet tall. And then there was this year's Earth Day 2024 back in May. How we got there is how we planned in the winter. We decided to, I don't remember how much square footage, was it 50? 500 square feet of cardboard. It had been tilled over the years, so we didn't till it. And we had an auger that created the hole in the cardboard and into the ground, about 600 plantings or plug sites. It turned out to be roughly 580, and it was really great. I did have the opportunity to participate in this day's Earth Day, Arbor Day, and it was great. 10 to 20 kids with their families coming helping us. We randomly planted the plugs. The plugs consist of, let's see if I can remember some of them, spreading aster, New England aster, mountain mint, penstemon or the beard's tongue, zizia, again, that golden Alexander, obedient plant, monardas, thank you. We have two beautiful, a red one and purple, light purple. The monarda is also called bee balm. And then you can see one of our wildflower committee members in the back. After the plugs were planted, we started the arduous task of composting roughly 2+ inches, 2 to 4 inches, and then wood chipping over the compost. There were basically most times just 3 of us doing it. So we went sort of quarter by quarter. It took us a month to do. We would weed first, place the compost, and then place the wood chips over that for weed suppression. This is what it looked like in July. Another thing bounding it up or bordering it is the Queen Anne's lace. So in the corner towards the front of the picture is actually fleabane, which is what we wanted, but behind it is all Queen Anne's lace. And you can see we're still in July attacking each quarter. The other thing you'll see are some of the orange flags. We noted when we had leftover plantings, or we no longer had enough augered holes, we planted around in without unprepped ground. We flagged it, but we also noted some other pre-seeded plants that were coming up. like lupin was really all over the place. It was beautiful, beautiful purple flower. Prairie penstemon was coming up, and then some of the grasses, blue stem and switchgrass. So it made the work a little more challenging, because usually what we would have trail crew come around and just string trim around our projects, but we couldn't do that anymore because there were too many native small plants coming up. You look 6 inches, there was Monarda, maybe about this big, and then 6 inches more were weeds. So we ended up hand weeding most of it this summer. This is what it looks like at the end of August. You can see behind it, we, meaning trail crews, did a great job of string trimming the Queen Anne's lace. So that was a success. And you can see in our plot, a lot of stuff has really taken off and grown. Some of the other natives that also popped was evening primrose. Really liked being there. We didn't plant it, but it's here and it's considered native, so we kept it. And then we were there today, and we continued with foxtail and sort of weeding around the plants. But the wood chips have done a nice job with weed suppression around as the cardboard is decayed and the compost is working. And this slide is just to show you the before and after of the hand weeding, trying to figure out what is native and what isn't. Often, if we're not pulling something up, we have our phones, and I don't know if anybody knows the app Picture This. We refer to Picture This and to help us determine, is it a keeper or not? And this is next year's project. You can see in the front of it is some more blue stem, but it is that black plastic tarp. It's been there for now about 1.5 years, and it'll be there a total of 2 years. A couple of things when we start planning what is going to be planted there and how. We know that we're not going to plant any more goldenrod. Goldenrod is plentiful, and tall white asters. But we may talk about other types of grasses and sedges that might be successful there, as well as some more herbaceous perennials. Talked a little bit about our challenges, but these are our big ones. You've seen in the pictures the foxtail, the annual self-seeding grass. Oxeye daisy. Oxeye daisy is a beautiful plant, but not native to that area, particularly when we started focusing on the native plantings. And it was planted in the berm, and now it's sort of at the edges, and it's really quite a challenge to get it out. It's a slippery little creature, and we continue to see it, and we pull it out. Crown vetch. Vetch is this small leafed vine, but it has a very large taproot and deep down, so it's really hard to pull out, and it just loves to be there. Mugwort. Mugwort is something we worked on last year. There is still plenty of it. It's fairly easy to pull out, so we can do that easily. Dock also last year, we were lucky enough to have an intern who tackled the dock, because dock also has a very large taproot, and we needed some young brawn to help us with that one, and he did a great job. And then Queen Anne's lace, again, we had 2 paid interns working with us over the summer who started attacking the Queen's lace. We've had trail crew really for the last month, and each week coming and cutting it down for us. And then it's also another weed that's very easy to pull out. So we do just a sign of what we get to look for. This is that Earth Day 2023 project at M1, and you can see all the Queen Anne's lace that's around it, that's been trimmed as well as pulled. Then we have our yellow foxtail, and it's sneaky. It likes to get in with all the plants we want to keep, which makes it challenging, and we have to get in there full by hand. Now on to some of our successes, my favorite parts, because we have seen a lot of success, and it's really very satisfying to go down there and see what new pops up, how excited one gets when we see lupin, and to see it bloom, and to see how many there are of it. The goldenrod is just starting to bloom, and all the pollinators that are on it. This was that flowering, another area. This is in shrub area 1. This is another cluster of the flowering raspberry bush. And you can see up top when it was initially planted and just 3 years later how big it is. And in early June, the picture is from early June, and it was just stunning. The flowers are beautiful. There's a fragrance to them. It was just beautiful. And then even better, who likes it? And as you can see, that eastern bumblebee with the pollen on its legs, have an at it, which is exactly what we wanted to see happen. Lead Mills itself had a big growth spurt, I'm going to call it. We noticed last fall in the Salem wedge section, tall white aster must have self-seeded into it. And it was noticed when we were trying to get rid of the mugwort. And then that became one of our first times where instead of string trimming, we had to go and start pulling the mugwort on its own so that we could protect the tall white aster. And this year it's even grown bigger, and it's expanded to Meadow 1 and Meadow 2 on the lower end, closer to the water. And it's just starting to bloom now. So I consider that a really great success that Lead Mills itself is doing some of the work that we asked it to do. The life that you see, if I know it's going to sound corny, but when you're there and you have all those pollinators around you, for me, it's just like one of the greatest things. It's so pretty to see. This is penstemon at the berm, and just watching the bees and the butterflies going and the moths. It's just lovely. It's very peaceful. Then we have our monarch caterpillars, and that is a variety of longhorn beetle, but it's the milkweed beetle. It's actually not on milkweed, but I think it's on an aster at the berm. But the two of them coexist. This is one of my favorite insects that I've seen so far. I wish I had its name. That's mountain nut that it's on. But it's just so bizarre that I love it. I didn't get a chance to have our entomologist, Lynn Fletcher, see what it was, but hopefully this fall or spring she teaches it, I would learn what that one is. And then the great black wasp is all over the mountain mint. It is a large wasp that is iridescent, something to be scary about, but it doesn't hurt you. It doesn't even want to deal with you as a human. Ladybugs we see. This is on evening primrose. Black swallowtails. This is all the monarda in our new Earth Day project. Of course, monarchs, other milkweed. This is a paper wasp on golden Alexander or Zizia that's reblooming. I don't know the difference between a cricket and a grasshopper, so I'm going to say it's either a cricket or a grasshopper. And then this is the locust borer, which I just found out the name of it. It loves the nectar or the pollen of goldenrod, and this was just taken this afternoon, and I saw the two of them coexisting on that petal, along with the other 8 beetles and 8 bees. And of course, our humans. This is some of our trail crew people. You will recognize some of you in the audience, and some of you will recognize other faces. There's some more. Jerry, that's a string trimmer, big one. And then I just want to show you a brief clip of what it looks to be just walking by mountain mint. Now, this I'm not that tech savvy, I will say. I have to give a shout out to my son who taught me how to do this, because of course it's on my phone, but I don't know how to upload onto YouTube. But he showed me, so I'm gonna give him a shout out. Let's see if I can make it work or not. Did Veronica leave? Best of it all is I hope you saw at the corner of that video, and now just a passerby who has no idea how much beautiful pollinators are having their way and they can coexist. So we have accomplished, at least starting to accomplish our goals, which is just very gratifying and rewarding. Oh, yeah, I'm not tech savvy. Oh, there we go. So our future projects, I sort of started talking about it. We are looking into data collection for our pollinators. The Lynn Fletcher, an entomologist at Salem State University, is going to teach us how to collect it. We are going to, if you remember the map, those 6 or so hot pink stripes, those are transects, and we will be walking through them in a very controlled way, counting the types of bugs that we see and hopefully learn to identify. We do have our 2025 Earth Day project coming. We will continue to use Dr. Kajir's and Evan Abramson's planting lists. We will probably have a fall dig and divide when the weather gets cooler. And then of course, anybody who likes to get down and dirty with us, literally, please come join us. Join the Conservancy. There's over 400 members, and I believe the mailing list is about 900. So it would be great to have some more hands. And thank you for coming. And at this time, there's several of us here. So if you have any questions, we can try and answer them. I don't know how else. I think there was a Zoom question. How stop share.
Do you have ticks? Like if you were to go walk through there, where do you have to do that? Are we getting more ticks in the city?
So the question is, do we have to worry about ticks? I don't know the official answer. I can tell you for the 2 summers, probably they're there. But for the couple of summers and falls that we've been there, I have not had them on me personally.
Yeah, either.
Nina, have you ever had one on you?
No, but I take the precaution to put DEET on my, when I garden, I have socks coming up on my gardening pants, and I spray the clothing with DEET. I don't put it on my own skin. So I don't know if there are any ticks there, but I do take that precaution.
So the native plugs that you put in, do you start those by seed or do you acquire the plugs from a nursery?
Oh, excellent question. Most of the time we acquire the plugs. There's a couple of places that we've used, Prairie Moon out of Minnesota and Earth Tones in Connecticut.
Yeah, they're in Woodbury.
In Woodbury, Connecticut. There are some of us who have donated some plants of ours that, as long as they are plants at our homes. Like I gave some cut leaf coneflower as long as it matches what's on the list, as well as the obedient plant and some snake root. So some have come from our homes, some have come from these 2 places of plugs and seeding.
The horned beetle, of which you said there is now a resurgence, is that same horned beetle that was responsible for the tree devastations in Worcester several years ago?
So that is the locust borer, possibly. I don't know of the tree infestation of those couple of years. I know what little I read about it today, but this is the time we start seeing it here, when the goldenrod is appeared in bloom, because it likes the food. Do we have any locust tree on Lead Mills? I don't.
Black locust.
We have black, but do we want them?
No.
No,
No.
so we may want the beetle to help us out.
You just had a question online
Oh,
there.
thank you. See if I can read it. So the question is, have you ordered plants from the Monarch Gardener in Ipswich? I have actually personally, which is where the obedient plant came from my yard. But we know that it's available, a place that we could access things from. Salem also has a group of people who are trying to cultivate native plants. You can look them up on Facebook. They have their sales.
Monarch Gardener.
Yeah. With one of the issues is we are always trying to plant for Earth Day, which is really early, and most places don't have plugs available at that time. So we're limited in who we go with because of that.
Yes.
So tell me, because of the lack of rain, how often have you been watering? I know I've lost a lot of things.
So like we said, the Earth Day project got watered every day even before the drought. But we only recently started hand watering the berm, shrub area, the 2 shrub areas. So
Not
really,
enough.
no, we've noticed that it was not enough. I think we kept waiting for the rain and like many volunteer organizations, we're small and we only have so many hours. But not enough watering.
I think probably once every 2 weeks for half an hour, honestly. Just
Each
enough to
site.
try to keep things alive, you know?
So that's a lot of watering for each site.
The wood chips work really well though, or would you think about using it?
I would say that the wood chips, so we planted the 2 to 4 inches of the compost and then 4 to 6 inches of the wood chips.
Less than that.
Less?
Yeah, 2 inches.
2 inches?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. But I think it's done a fairly good job
Yeah.
at the 24 site for weed suppression.
Yeah, I mean, it's a balance between, so the wood chips prevent the seeds, a lot of the seeds from getting to the soil and germinating, but they probably wouldn't live to do that if we didn't have the wood chips. So it's a balance there. And we have found on the berm, we chipped the berm and we still found there were plenty of plants. So that, you know, a lot of seeds not being used, but there's enough of them.
The wood chips are free from the town, so.
Yeah, it helps.
In fact, there's a cantaloupe vine growing and a couple of squashes from the compost that we got. So it's kind of fun. Non-native, but I thank you for joining us and I hope you enjoyed the pictures.
Heidi mentioned establishing communication with MIT who's interested in pollinators and having her students do some pollinator studies. That's great. Marblehead Conservancy has 3 strategic areas of focus: land, trails, and education. So we can have students working over there, that's to the good. We have recently established communication with another professor at MIT who's interested in having his students look at the health of vegetation at the Lead Mills area over across the season. It turns out, she taught me, that chlorophyll has an emissivity that's just beyond the visible spectrum out there, but they can detect it. And they can detect it using drone aircraft as well going over. So that's going to be an interesting study once he gets his students cranked up and working on that. So any of these activities where we can get students involved to us, that's a plus. We'll pick up on that wherever we can. We've had the Tower School working at Lead Mills in the past, so forth. Again, very interesting for us. All right. Any other questions then? On anything at all? Chance of a lifetime. Okay. We thank you very, very much. We are working on other events in the library here. We're glad they're back on Pleasant Street, even though the parking isn't improved and so forth. But they've got this nice new facility. We're still learning how to use all of the facilities here. You know, they've got a camera up there that once you get it set up, it can track you as you walk around the room. Fascinating. We
didn't use that.
We have a lot to learn. You're right. She's right. We didn't want to take that on. Okay, again, I want to thank everybody for coming this evening. We very much appreciate your interest. If you have other ideas about things that you might like to hear about that the Marblehead Conservancy might have something to do with, let us know. We've got some cards on the back table that you can pick up, and it just has our website. You can easily find that. And on our website, in the upper right-hand corner of each page, there's a place where if you click on it, it'll set up an email for you, and all of those emails come to me. So if you want to give us any suggestions, please do. There are a number of people who do right now. I'm answering these every month out there. There's also an ability in there to sign up for our electronic newsletter, if you like. Our electronic newsletter goes out to over 900 people, around people who have just given us their email address and say, well, we'd like to receive it. You can always bow out if you decide, well, that's not good. Our electronic newsletter, I should tell you, is not on a regular schedule. We put one out when we have something to say. So all of a sudden it'll appear in your mailbox. What the heck is that? And then you'll have to look at it to find out, because we don't advertise these sort of things. We generally will announce something like this event. We'll let you know something like this is coming. And to that end, I also want to tell you now that we will have a table at the Sustainable Marblehead Fair at the Brown School coming up on the 28th of this month. We have a little 6-foot table, but we've got a nice new banner that we're going to put up. So if you're going to that Sustainable Marblehead Fair, we'll be there. We'll be inside, not outside. Okay, that's it.
And we'll be at the farmer's market this Saturday.
Oh, yes.
And two
Thank you. Susan Turner, yes. She's in charge of our booth over at the farmer's market. So we'll be at the farmer's market on this Saturday. I think you're going to get a chance to see our brand new banner.
Maybe.
Maybe.
It might be wait until the sustainability fair.
All right. Go to find out. Take the chance. It's always a good place. Farmers market's always a good place to visit. Okay. Enough of my talk in there. Again, I thank you for coming. I thank you for your interest. That's it. Good evening.